Hey everybody, this is Ken One Meeks with the Ken Meeks Show. Today we have Sue Ann Taylor, actor, producer, director, film coach. What's going on, Sue Ann?
How are
Nice
you?
to meet you. This is a pleasure. I've heard so much about you, and I understand you're from Maine.
I am.
So what was it like growing up in Maine?
It's just beautiful. And growing up in Maine, I appreciated it every single day. We grew up on the ocean.
Okay.
We walked right out. My front door was the ocean. And I loved it. My dad was a lobsterman. He was also a contractor, but he loved the ocean. He loved being out in the boats.
Okay.
Loved the thrill of the hunt of the lobsters. Interesting little fact about lobsters and the traps is people don't realize that it's sort of a game of chance, because the lobsters that get in to the traps can also walk right out.
Wow.
Okay, so it's not like a bear trap where they're stuck, right? They go in and they eat the bait, and so the lobsterman has to get there before they're done eating the bait and pull them up.
So your father was doing all of this great stuff with
He
lobsters.
was. It was just a wonderful way to grow up, and I love it. And I had a high school principal that humored my then crazy idea, 1972, that I wanted to make films.
Okay.
And he bought a film kit for the school and started a film course, and that got me started.
So writing wasn't the first thing that intrigued you.
Oh, it
Film.
was. No,
So
it was writing. I loved to write. From the fifth grade on, I was writing stories.
So did you start with poetry like most people?
I did.
Okay.
Poetry and songs, of all things.
So do you remember the first poem you've written? Or you don't quite?
I don't. But my father just passed away.
Oh, sorry to hear that.
In a storage locker in Maine, after clearing out his house, is a bunch of those kinds of things that a parent collects from a child, and I will get to them at some point, and I will see some of my earlier work.
Okay. So when did you realize, from writing poems and taking your film class, to actually say to yourself, hey, I have something, I got something? What did you write, or what did you see, or did somebody say something to you to make you want to continue and be a writer and producing film? At what moment?
Well, I love to write short stories.
Okay.
And we lived at the beach, and my grandparents would come down on Sunday after dinner, and I would read my short stories to them. And
wow.
I think one of the things that connected with me is my grandfather would argue about things in the story. That in his mind, all of the stories were about him. So he would correct me on the facts.
Right.
And I would say, but I made it up.
Yeah, it's not about you.
I would, no, this is another man that, you might have influenced. But, and I realized that I had made it real for him. And I was probably in the 8th, 9th grade when this was going on. And I also realized that I could entertain them with my stories. So that's kind of where it all started, and I just always wanted to do that. And then as I got older, everybody told me how ridiculous an idea that was for a woman to want to be a filmmaker in the 70s, in the early 70s, more 60s than 70s.
Explain more about how was it producing film and being a woman in the 70s, trying to get the film out, writing, because we didn't have social media back then, right? So how was it producing and, just trying to get in the film industry in general in the 70s?
Nearly impossible, okay? Started in television. And that was nearly impossible. Spring ahead to the 80s, I had my own company, my own crew. We were all women.
Wow.
And a little anecdote I'll share with you is we were with the mayor of Orlando. It was about 1985, 86. And we were all set up, ready to go, and so we're sitting like you and I are sitting here, and we're ready to go. And he's sitting there, and he's waiting, and he's waiting, and I said, "Excuse me, sir, can you tell me what we're waiting for?" I thought he was waiting for like a PR girl or something. He goes, I'm waiting for the cameraman, of course. I said, of course we are. So in that, we're just gonna get started then, because this is the crew.
Right.
And he was astonished. He was absolutely
All
astonished.
women.
It was all women. And I'll tell you another funny, and that is.
I hate to cut you off. Was it all white women or was it diverse?
It was very diverse.
In the 70s?
We've always had, no, this is the 80s, okay?
The 80s, okay.
70s, I did a lot of writing, but not a lot of TV, okay?
So the 80s became more diverse.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, just my opportunities to do anything, you know?
Right.
I mean, you know, I could get coffee. I was blessed with great secretarial skills. True story.
Yeah.
I didn't want to do secretarial. My father insisted, and it's what catapulted me, to tell you the truth. Through college and everything, I typed like a demon. So I could get in places that otherwise, you know, everybody needed a secretary.
Right.
So that was my ticket in.
So you had to work your way up.
Mm-hmm. And then when I started my own company in '79, that's when things started to happen. Mostly in television. I was the first outside producer for the Travel Channel.
Wow.
And that was where we had our all-girl crew. And then, you know, it was diverse there, and then we had some guys that came in. But we always, you know, it was, can you do the job? That's the only question we ever asked, period, you know. And so we gave a lot of people a leg up, but we were not always welcome. But I'll tell you a funny story.
Here we go.
We worked out of Philadelphia for the Travel Channel, Philadelphia and Allentown, Pennsylvania. We did a lot with Donald Trump at his casinos. Okay. They were big travel news at the time. And he thought it was kind of fun that we had an all-girl crew.
I bet he did.
Well, actually, not anything inappropriate whatsoever.
Yeah,
it just was nothing but respectful.
Right.
And lots of people have asked me, you know, these. Not a bit, you know, because
he wasn't like that then.
And he was married to his first wife, and she really ruled us. Okay, you will go here, you will do this. Here's your story, you know. And as long as we stayed to that, we were in. You know. Okay.
And as far as the women that was in your crew, are they still with you now?
No, this is my Philadelphia team.
Okay,
I moved here in 1999, and you know, started all over again.
Yeah. Okay. So when you recruit now, or when you bring people into your company, do you look more at diversity meaning women, men, or you just looking at who's ever good at whatever? If you're good at it, you're getting hired. I don't care if you're black, white, yellow, green, man, woman.
That's it.
That's what you're looking at.
It's, can you get the job done?
Can you get the job done?
That's it. Most people that I work with come to me because they have an idea that they want me to help them develop. And I do spend extra time with people in the Black community on that, because I really feel that we haven't heard enough of their stories.
I'm glad you said that, because I had an interview yesterday, right? And I was talking to a gentleman, and we was talking about actors in the Black community. They were saying how hard it is for Black actors to, you know, get work in film, and it's easier in Hollywood. So it really, I really appreciate you saying, you know, I look at that. That's what I search for, because they need their stories heard as well. So yeah, I'm giving you your flowers.
Thank you. Yeah. I think Hidden Figures changed everything.
Yeah.
It was a story that I was astonished. I had no idea, you know, with my, you know, reasonable education, how come I had never heard of her?
Yeah.
How come, you know, I grew up in the space program.
Yeah. NASA.
You know, I remember all of that from its very, very beginnings. And that name never had come up, and obviously she was a key figure.
Right.
So that's where movies have an opportunity to move the needle across the board and increase understanding and appreciation. And you know, a look over the fence into a place that we've never looked before. And I want to be a part of that. I have 2 or 3 movies that fit that category that I'm working on right now. We have one called The Receipt that we're doing with a young black filmmaker named Antonio Faison.
Yeah.
Great movie about a man who spent 25 years falsely accused in prison. Great
Wow.
story, absolutely fantastic story. It'll make an incredible movie.
And when is it coming out?
Well, we're developing it right
process.
now. The development process is a longer process than people understand.
Okay.
You know, movies that show up at the Academy Awards probably took 10 years to get there.
Yeah, I hear that, right?
Yeah.
So for you all out there that's trying to produce movies and try to get a quick movie together, she just told you it takes at least 10 years to process.
It's a long process. You hear about the flashes and pan, but most of them take a long time to, you know, gather all of the steam that it needs. Of course, the people that have upended this are people like Netflix and Amazon
Right.
and people like that. They have these huge kitties of money. But getting in there is, I mean, talk about gatekeepers. My gosh, there's gatekeepers on gatekeepers there.
So that's real. People really do gatekeep.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Wow.
You know, when we're doing a pitch, you know, and we just had 2 pitches that we made. One got through, one didn't. And I kept trying to tell them, you are making a pitch not to the audience that's going to see this. You're making it an audience of 4 people.
Right.
Okay, if you can get through those 4 people, then you get to go on to the next one, right? Then you build an audience, etc. But if you can't get through those 4 people, if you've got anything scary in there, they're not going to take a career chance on you.
Wow.
Why would they? They'll take, you know, that's why the same people, if you watch TV, Taylor Sheridan, he's a safe bet. If you've got a Taylor Sheridan show on your network,
You're good to go.
you're good to go, period. And that's how it works. So the best way to get in is to get in with Taylor Sheridan or somebody like that. And I try to poke through that all the time, and you know, see what the opportunities are to break through. But that is the main vein right there.
So it's all about relationships, and you can't
Totally.
burn bridges because you never know who may know Mr. Sheridan.
That's it.
Wow.
Not only that, but it's such a volatile business that somebody's behavior or their relationship with you on any particular project is all surrounded by what that project was fraught with.
Right.
When that project is over, it's over.
Wow.
And I had to learn that the hard way. I had some issues with my first feature film. And I started making these apologies, and this actor came up and he goes, "Oh, no, it's all done. You're good now. You put it out. You got Lionsgate to pick up your picture. We love you now."
Yeah.
But I gotta tell you, the daggers I took on set, hi. Okay, so that's how the industry works. You have to roll with the punches and just don't say anything negative about anybody. It will come back. Period. That's it. Don't tweet, nothing negative. It will come back. 100%.
Wow.
100 times.
You never know who know that next person.
It's just, don't do it. That's it. And so, do you remember the movie The Green Mile?
Yes.
Okay. So what I tell people when they're doing productions is create a Green Mile safe space, because people do need places to vent about our daily trauma.
Yes.
But I also tell them, if I hear this outside the Green Mile, you're done. That's it.
Right.
You don't take it out of here.
You don't take it. You keep.
That's it.
Right.
I will take. You know, amongst us, we can have
can
all of the
talk,
issues with.
communicate.
But outside of here, we're good. Period. With each other, with anybody that has to do with us, it multiplies so quickly. And in the social media world, it's hopeless. You know, so just don't do it.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. Kasim Reed told me something when I interviewed him. I said, you know, what made you want to be mayor? He said, I wanted to be mayor since I was in the 4th grade. And every decision I made through my childhood, adolescence was, the mayor of Atlanta wouldn't do this. The mayor of Atlanta wouldn't do that. And I tell people that story because after, when you're making your decision, am I going to say this or not?
Right.
Think, would Steven Spielberg say this? Would Bill Duke say this?
Right.
These people who have got these vaulted careers, they didn't get it because they trashed somebody. They did it because they lifted up somebody.
Yes, you got to be humble. You got to practice the way you want to play.
That's it.
I do believe that. So, Sue Ann, the film coach.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that. What do you do as far as the film coach? Explain that to me.
So, if I could go back just a little bit, I started these what they would call fast channels.
Okay.
Back in 2005. And I started this thing called Cherokee TV because I live in Cherokee County.
Okay.
And there was no place to get information about the people we were electing in Cherokee TV. Cherokee County. So I started Cherokee TV. Total loss leader kind of thing. I did not make a dime on it. Lost many dimes on it. But we won national awards on our news coverage from it.
Wow.
One of the people that called is Comcast. And they said, literally, we'd like to talk with you about what you're doing. So I came in and I took over Comcast downtown. And part of that, I ran their public access station and that kind of operation for them. And I signed up for a year and I stayed for 8 years. In that process, I started, as was part of the mandate for public access, I had a course on how to use all the gear. And then I expanded it a little bit to include film. So we had lots of young people come in and learn the ropes on what it's like to be on set, what it's like to make a TV show, etc. That's where I started doing my film coach kind of stuff. Some of those students are still with me today, even though 2016 is the last time I was at Comcast.
Wow.
So I like to show them how to take their idea from a script, get it through the development process, get it funded, get it shot, get it done.
Love it. So we're going to talk about who the is Jackson Pollock?
Who the F is Jackson Pollock is a documentary that was made 25 years ago. It's a story about Terry Horton, and I am making the feature film about the same lady, not the same story.
Okay.
She was a truck driver.
Okay.
And she became a truck driver as a way to track down her kids that she was separated from when they were 1 and 3.
Okay.
And that is something that could happen in 1956. It's hard to believe in today's world where you'd have an Amber Alert like that, but that is what happened. And she ended up a dumpster diver as kind of her.
Yeah.
She would go to these malls and she would get actually new goods that they were just throwing away, and she would put them in a yard sale, and that would augment her living that way.
Okay.
It's the feature film I've just written. It's called The Vindication of Terry Horton.
Okay.
The crux of the story is she finds that painting that's on the cover there at a thrift store.
Found it, and she paid how much for it?
$5.
$5.
She negotiated down to $5.
And how much is this worth now?
110 million.
110 million. She paid $5 for this. I'm in the wrong profession.
Well,
I need a.
there is a hook to the story, and that is for it to be worth 110 million. It's appraised at that, but there's no signature on it. There's a story behind that story, and it's never been authenticated by the authenticating powers that be, which is the whole crux of our movie, The Vindication of Terry Horton. Because there is indeed forensic evidence that if this was a crime scene, the criminal would be in jail. There's a very clear thumbprint.
Because it's thumbprints
on the painting.
On the painting.
That
the
matches,
investigators.
Yeah, thumbprints in his own environment, his studio, and on other paintings that are his. So there's you know, it's obviously controversial. There's
Right.
people who say, nope, it's not, and there's lots of people who say it can't not be. So that's the
Sounds
controversy
like,
of the movie.
Without
and-
giving too much away.
Exactly.
We don't want to give too much away. You have to, when the movie comes out, I'm going to go watch it. You have to watch this. This is crazy. It's a crazy great movie. Moving on. Cafe Life Venice.
Well, Cafe Life Venice is one of three. Cafe Life Rome, Venice, Florence. We're going to start with Italy.
Okay.
And they're based on these award-winning books. The photography on those books was done by my partner, Roger Paperno. And it really is an examination of the European tradition of cafe life. That kind of shows the importance of community, getting your face out of the screens,
Right.
talking to people, the importance of carrying on traditions, and bringing it back to our communities,
Okay.
living more in community, and appreciating people on a face-to-face basis instead of a Facebook basis.
Exactly, because everybody's on social media right now. Keeping It Wild with Jason Raize. Explain that.
Jason Raize was the host of the second wildlife series I did.
Okay.
We were doing Keeping It Wild with Jason Raize when 9/11 happened. So we take you back. Jason was the first kid to play Simba on Broadway for
Wow.
Disney. Very talented young man. Oh my gosh, could he sing? But he was also a tragic story. I learned a lot about what happens to these young stars. As a parent of three, I teach my kids from a very early age about making decisions.
Right.
You know, you could do this, you could do that. This would be a better, you know, you tell me what the better decision is. And what I found with Jason is Disney had so handled him, he couldn't make a decision about anything.
Wow.
And of course, when he outgrew his role, he was dropped like a hot rock. And we picked him up. We thought he would be a great host of the series. Anyway, we did a number of episodes. Jason, unfortunately, took his own life, which is just a tragedy.
That's sad. It's kind of hard to go from Disney, because Disney's huge.
Huge.
And then they let you go, and
Yeah. I mean, they picked him up every day. You know, he had no decisions to make. They, you know,
Yeah,
we
they
will pick
did.
you up, we
Yeah,
will
right.
take you home,
Yeah,
you're
as a
going to eat
kid.
this
Yeah.
at this time, you're going to wear this, you know, and when we got out into the wild, he was, and I have a serious on-set, well, actually on our job, no drug rule. But when
Right.
you're in Africa,
right.
I will have you helicoptered out of there if I find you on drugs, because you need your wilies. This is the
Right.
these are real lions.
Right.
This is not the zoo,
Right.
you know. And you let your guard down, and you'll be gone, dragged right out of here. So,
Wow.
so that was an issue with him, and I am so sorry that happened to a very, very bright star.
Sad.
And but anyway, he's been gone a long time now. It's hard to believe.
And I was going to ask you, how do you separate your personal from your work in film? Because it can become a lot.
I'm not good at that. All
Okay.
right.
Well, at least you admitted it.
Yep. I'm not. I'm
You
sure.
have meetings, you have interviews.
All the time.
And kids
Yeah.
and
And the best thing that happened and the worst thing that ever happened is Zoom. Okay. You know, so I don't have to leave the house to have a meeting.
but
But I could have that same meeting at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, Saturday, Sunday morning, you know. So it's.
so what's the best practice, since you know that there's some things you're not doing right?
Mm-hmm.
For somebody who's up and coming, is trying to be a Sue Ann Taylor. What's the best practice for somebody who has a child, a newborn, or kids in general, and a husband? But they say, look, I want to do this. What's the best practice with separating the two?
So this is what I tell people. I tell them a story about Helen Hayes. And of course they look at me like, who the heck is Helen Hayes? Helen Hayes was a very famous actress. And she was having an interview with the New York Times. And her telephone was ringing. Her old, big light telephone was just ringing and ringing and ringing. And the woman said, Miss Hayes, don't you want to go answer that? She said, no, I got that for my convenience. And it is not convenient for me now to be on the telephone. And that rings with me because I look at my phone that's ringing and ringing all the time and buzzing, and I go, I can turn this off. We've reached a point in our society where people go, I tried to call you and you didn't answer.
Right.
And I was like, that is true. And that is a discipline you have to learn. You don't have to pick it up. Now, I do keep it on. I keep it on silent because...
What about opportunity? Depends on who's calling.
Well, you know what? You have to put up your lines, okay? Because if it's a genuine opportunity, it's not going to go away because you didn't pick up the phone at 6:30.
Amen. You said something in. If it's genuine, it's not going to go away.
That's it. That is it. And I have one gentleman that I'm dealing with that leaves his cell phone in his office at 5 o'clock on Friday and just leaves it there. There is no getting him on Friday afternoon, Saturday or Sunday
with his
until
family.
Monday at noon. That's it, period. And he has a small child and a baby, and he put up those, and I totally respect that. I wish I'd done more of that, to be very honest. So, because they are addictive. The more smart these things become, the more we're interested in seeing what they can do next. It's the new hook.
It's a new hook. Well, that's great. So, Sue-Ann, I've learned a lot from Huda is Jackson Pollock to Keeping It Wild to Cafe Life and Business. Even with you, which we didn't mention, she's also earned a Presidential Lifetime Achievement Award. So again, I want to give you your flowers. Let everybody know where they can find you at, what platform, and also how they can get in touch with you.
I can certainly give you SAT at Blue Heron Films. Blue Heron Films is the name of our company.
Okay.
And that is the best way to be in touch with me.
Okay.
And I'm on IMDb, of course.
Okay.
And we have a Christmas film that we did called Charlie's Christmas Wish that you can see.
So this is the famous Charlie.
Charlie brings a lot of happiness to the town.
You know I hate little dogs.
My family doesn't know where or how I'm living. I don't even know how to talk to them anymore.
The PTSD will begin to have less of a grip on you when you have a renewed sense of purpose.
Today, this town found out that great men that have served this country, veterans, they don't have a home.
I say we get a team together and we build these vets a house.
We have one coming out this year, Christmas this year, called Christmas at the Grey Horse Inn, that we shot in the middle of COVID. It's had some challenges, but we're over the challenges. We're coming out with it this year. That's very exciting. That will be out before our Vindication of Terry Horton movie.
I love it. Well, it's been an amazing time with you, Sue-Ann. Thank you for blessing my platform.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.